We are approaching the first major market crash within Ultimate Team, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down absolutely everything that you need to know. But before we do get into the video, if you're wanting to prepare and build up as much as possible before this market crash, then there is no better place than U4GM. They offer cheap, fast and reliable FC24 coins. A link can be found in the description down below, and if you use Fanatic at checkout, you'll also get yourself a 5% discount. Thank you U4GM for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into it. You may already believe that the very first market crash has already happened. This would have happened on the release of Ultimate Team. Typically we see a player price increase across the board from the moment the Ultimate Edition releases all the way up to the standard edition release, and then we see a dip down. Except that doesn't really happen for every single player. Let me show you. So there are a lot of players who will go down in value. For example, throughout the whole month of October, we've seen players decrease in value such as Diani, Haaland, Messi, and many more. These are considered good players, but they're not considered the best players within game, or at least not to fit the meta. So you can see that Diani went from being over 150k down to around 50k. Messi started out incredibly high, being a few 100,000 coins, and now he's down below less than 100k. And Haaland started above 600, settled after release at around 500, but then dipped and has continued to dip just below 200k. And this type of decline will be there for most players within Ultimate Team, but not every player. Because even though people initially bought into these types of players, the Dianis, the Haalands, the Messis, and they all shot up in value right at the beginning, gradually people understood who was the best players, and gradually people were able to build up their coins. So as demand moved away from these types of players, it then gradually went over to the likes of Mbappe. Mbappe started less than 2.5 million, shot up to above 3.5 million, slowly came back down, and has been slowly increasing ever since to anywhere between 3 million to 3.5 million. A similar price can also be seen with a lot of the most desirable players within game. Any of your top icons, your top heroes, and any top player that has been released as part of recent promos. So this has not been so much as a market crash, but more of a transfer of wealth from people buying into players that were good in terms of rating and great in real life, but gradually move over to those who are amazing within game. But all of that will change this month, because we have a Black Friday event that will take place on Friday the 24th of November and will continue most likely all over through the weekend to Cyber Monday. This is nothing new, and what EA is likely going to do is release a lot of lightning rounds. These are packs as well as promos and any type of challenges, objectives, pretty much content every single hour, except it's only limited for an hour or is limited to the amount of people that can complete it, with exception to the likes of SBCs and objectives. That's available to everyone. But with packs, there will be a set amount, and people tend to go crazy for this. They'll load up on loads of FC points or even spend their hard-earned coins in order for them to open as many of these packs as possible. That's increasing the total amount of supply on the market, which also then forces player prices down. Now, that is a simple way, but this is actually a lot bigger. Nowadays, because EA follows the exact same calendar every single year with a very few amount of exceptions based on promos, it means that what they're about to do is predictable. So even though we will see a dip in player prices on the 24th going all the way through to the following Monday, it's actually not when it starts. That is going to be the final nail in the coffin, because it actually is most likely going to start in the next week or two. Everyone knows what EA is going to do on Black Friday, and therefore people start to prepare a few weeks before that event so that they can get a head start, maximize as many coins as possible, so that once the crash takes place, they can then buy back their players for a fraction of the price and still have coins left over. Except nowadays, because so many people are prepared in doing this, they will then sell all of their players off, and they tend to do it all at a similar time, which then forces the very initial drop down in player prices as there becomes an increase in the amount of people trying to sell and a decrease in the amount of people looking to buy. And then we see a second crash by the time we do get to Black Friday. Now, with all of that said, it is still relative in terms of player prices. Mbappe is not going to go down from 2 million where he currently sits all the way down to less than 100k. What we can see is potentially 100, maybe 200k drop depending on the content that EA releases. And that's what you should really expect for most of the top players. Probably a decrease in about 5 to potentially 15% as overall. Demand for players such as Mbappe, Messi, R9, all of those top rated, high rated icons, rare gold players, hero cards, there's still going to be a lot of demand for them. So they may decrease just 5%. But on the other hand, players such as Messi, Haaland, Diani could drop even further, potentially go into that higher end of 15%. So with all of this in mind, what can you do to prepare? Well, with there being a lot of players that will go down in value, there will also be some who will stay the same or maybe potentially even increase. This is going to be any of your cheap team of the weeks or even any of the cheap other types of special cards that you've bought into since Ultimate Team has released. This is because these players have already been released, they were part of packs, there was supply for them, and then they were already taken out of packs. And by the time that we get to Black Friday, even though EA will be releasing loads of packs as part of content drops, it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect these players because they are no longer in packs. It also does depend on what type of content EA releases in terms of SBCs, because in previous years, we've actually seen an increase in Team of the Week players due to those being required for some of the SBC challenges that EA released as content. That increase in demand, plus also somewhat reduce in supply as people go through, use these Team of the Week players, and they become rarer on the market. It's hard to tell whether or not this is going to happen again this year. I'm not a fortune teller. What I am doing is still buying my Team of the Week players as part of my weekly routine, and that won't change. If I cannot sell them during the Black Friday promo because they increase in value, doesn't matter. I'm still going to hold on to them, and at some point they will increase to a point in which I can sell them on. I'm also taking the time, and whenever a player does get to a certain price, I will buy into them as part of my high rating rare gold fodder investments and then just store them to my club. Yet again, not sure which way this is going to go. Could increase depending on the content that EA does release in terms of SBCs. It could also decrease with the amount of packs that are being open. But yet again, this is something that will always fluctuate in price throughout the year. So even if I do not buy them at the lowest possible point, it really doesn't matter as long as it's nowhere near the highest possible point that they tend to go to when there is demand for them. This really comes down to a judgment call on your end. Some people, and we did mention this earlier, they do like to go and sell their team before all of this happens. For transparency, I can't do that this year because my team is mainly untradeable. In fact, every player within my starting 11 is untradeable and first owner. I do have a few players within my club which I bought as part of those Team of the Week investments, which I'm not selling on. And then there's a few other players which really haven't got much value and doesn't really make sense for me to sell on because I'm not really going to be making that much anyway, and they're probably not going to be affected by the crash in itself because they're already at rock bottom. But if you do have some very expensive players within your club, it may be a good idea to sell them so that you can buy them back after the crash, potentially towards the end of November, beginning of December, so you can get them for a fraction of the price. My only thing against this, and it has been something that I've said in previous years, but you may find yourself, if you're trying to do this for every single crash, that you never really play with your team, because it wouldn't be long into December where people start preparing for Team of the Year. And we do start to see a dip mid-December where people start selling their teams yet again to get ready to buy back their teams after Team of the Year. And then it's just a few weeks after that where people get ready for Team of the Season. But out of everything that we've mentioned, the most important thing that you can do is trade on the day. You can find some very good deals building up to events like this because there's so many people trying to sell. In a lot of cases, you can just do a simple sniping filter where you're able to buy players way below market value. People are trying to get a quick sell, so they massively undercut where you can quickly buy in and relist that player for a few hundred, potentially a few thousand coins in profit. It also becomes great on Black Friday with the amount of packs being opened if you're not opening packs, just to go through and use any type of bidding method. It doesn't matter what it is. Chances are most people are going to be opening packs. You're going to have next to no competition. And if you can find anyone valued a few thousand coins, you may be able to do what we did last year, where we was able to bid on them for less than 1,000 coins and make a very good return on every single player. We were making over 1,000 coins profit on each player just by using a simple bulk bidder method. No one's surprised with that. We was able to make 300,000 coins over just 24 hours. Me personally, I'm not expecting to do that this year just because I don't have as much time as what I had last year, but I'm still looking to be making a decent amount, hopefully doing exactly this. But this is what you need to do to get ready for the very first market crash within FC24. If you enjoyed this video, then I highly recommend clicking the next video. That video has been specifically recommended just for you. No one else is getting it. It's just been pulled out because the YouTube algorithm knows exactly what you're needing. So click that and I hope you enjoy.